We look at the state of what's happening in the world of the creator economy, from creators, from people creating platforms, and really what is it like to be a creator. And the inspiration for the show started in when I was given the opportunity to have a coin named after me by Rally, and that's when I sort of went all in and branded the Jeff coin and decided to, in fact, go forward and talk about the creator economy. I have a bias. I think that we're all creators. I think I don't need to be designated. I'm a creator. I was recognized by Rally, therefore I exist. I no. I think we actually are all creative. We're all creators, and creativity is on us. And there's just a lot going on. And in the last, almost year, the hashtag for creator economy has gone through the roof, at least for recognition. But also, what certainly in 2021, what hit 2021 by storm wasn't the creator economy. It was NFTs, and it was an awareness of what non-fungible tokens could be, and perhaps the excitement of what they will do. And the one thing about the Jeff coin was, when I launched it, I was using it for access. I was using it as if it was an NFT. I was using it a way to offer all sorts of perks and really explore. And I had my sister Lauren helped me launch the Jeff social experiment, the Jeff Club, if you will. And the show came out of it. And one thing I learned is about this is that there's no way to define who and what a creator is. Because I've had the opportunity to meet people from all walks of life, and it's been incredible. So today's show, I have two friends. I'm really excited to bring forward Jordan French, who is he is an amazing individual. He's wears his grit daily, as he puts it there. Jordan is the co-founder of Grit Daily. He's also the executive editor. And he is being gifted the magic from Rally next week, I believe. At least rumor has it that he has a creator coin coming out in his name. And if you're on rally.io, look out for GRIT. Now, Jordan's doing something which I wish I could do, but I'm not able to due to logistics. He's going to South by Southwest. And not is he going to South by Southwest, he's going to actually have, I think, one of the media houses will be for him. And I do miss Austin. And I do miss the community feeling of Austin, and I miss the energy and the flow. And anyway, I'd like to say good afternoon, Jordan. How are you doing?
Fantastic. Good to hear your voice. Good to see a good contingent join for the Jeff Pulver show. But you're exactly right. We're headed to Austin. Kicks off on March 10th through the 15th with Grit Daily House, which I'm sure we'll unpack on this. It relates right back to the Grit coin, GRAT, like you spelled out.
And so could you talk a little bit about what Grit Daily is about? What markets? I guess you're a daily publication, but for people not familiar with what you cover or who you cover or who your target audience is, can you share a little bit of background, please?
Yeah, definitely. Grit Daily, founded in 2018, at this point has won awards for its coverage on startups. We've covered over 8,000 startups over its lifespan. We get a lot of comparisons to Business Insider, Crunchbase News, sometimes to VentureBeat, and sometimes to TechCrunch. But we're cut from that cloth in the editorial side, where we cover funding rounds and interesting things that entrepreneurs have done. And we're also equally known, Jeff, for our events, just like our upcoming flagship event. That's Grit Daily House, is one of the 8 or 9 media houses that runs during South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. We also had a couple of collaborations with Microsoft for events in Times Square. And we were the ones who sold Miami Blockchain and NFT Summit to Mana to form NFT Basel, which took place in Miami, fittingly, in early December of last year.
Wow. So with the coverage of of the startups that you've been doing since 2018, have you noticed certain trends? Anything happening and or changing over the last few years that of note?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's 3 to really pick up on. People are leaving their jobs in droves or adding side hustles, and those departures are meaningful. Just like the side hustles are meaningful, there are far more than a handful at this point of companies that have become unicorns, billion-dollar companies that really just started as a side project from people who are already working at some other institution. A second big observation that we have that somewhat relates to the first is funding around inflation, especially since the onset of the pandemic. It's been easier and easier generally for entrepreneurs to raise more and more. Some of that is an artifact of the fintech space specifically that has attracted a lot of capital. It's crested over 20% of the fundraising that has happened, or rather happened last year. So that was a record, and I think contributed certainly to total fundraising. A third observation is, I think, one that's very good for the world broadly. For the longest time, there's been a lot of just conversation about diversity in startups, especially when it comes to fundraising, especially when it comes to minorities, particularly in the US, and especially women, which we pay a lot of attention to at Grit Daily, is the relationship between women, fundraising, capital formation, and their own startups. And there is what does appear to be very clear movement in broadening that base. Part of that is an artifact, again, of those people who are in the decision-making spots, who decide, where funding goes to. So some cool and awesome observations there, to share with this audience. And that parlays into a lot of what we do, which is, champion the underdog. Grit Daily is the premier startup news hub. We're known for being very inclusive. We're known for a lot for our events. They're almost all freely ticketed. We're blessed to be able to do that. And that includes Grit Daily House coming right up next week, Jeff.
That is wonderful. And I congratulate you on your continued success. And I'm, as it turns out, I actually am a co-founder of a new startup. And we actually are, it's a Web3 company. I haven't announced it yet, although we are doing our pre-seed round well, not during this show, but we're doing it this month in March. And I have noticed some of those observations to be totally correct since the last time I dipped my feet into the water to understand valuation and to understand what people are looking for. And with one of the benefits, from your perspective, having a coin is, I appreciate that your events are free, but I'm thinking perks, right? That if people hold on to some of the grit, they'll maybe have access. Maybe it's going to be, maybe for some people, for a certain amount of grit, they could have coffee with you. For others, maybe you'll have an exclusive event where for people who are supporting the brand, they get to hang out or get in earlier. I remember several South bys ago when Mashable were doing certain things, not so much with currency, but really with reputation or some sort of access where if you got into certain lists, you got in before other people. And then, of course, there always were people there before you, no matter what list you're on. It just did not matter. And so that's what led me to hosting my own parties, because that way I figured out, what, I'm the host and everyone can get in when they want to. And that was fun. And for me, South by was both educational and also just an opportunity to relax a little bit and to take it all in and just observe. So from a Grit Daily perspective, do you guys put any kind of spotlights on the creator economy at all? Have you thought about, well, first of all, congratulations on your upcoming launch. And, it's sort of like, are you thinking about putting spotlights on, quote, the creator economy? And how are you like promoting yourself? The fact that you now will have this really cool symbol, some grit, where everyone can get some daily grit. Have you what's going to happen? It's seems magical to me to be able to be in a place, because you actually are in the business of producing events where people might want to have some extra grit, where they may want some extra visibility. And I'm just wondering, have you thought about how to leverage the brand a little bit more?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for the kind words, Jeff. And then, taking those questions sort of in reverse order, certainly we've thought about this a lot. And it's prescient since we're in the market for attention already. And, the grit token, just like a lot of how this space plays out, it's all about that market for attention. So, you're right. I think the typical iterations of that are attention to our editorial staff, attention to me. I think generally, we offer broadly PR and marketing advice all the time. Even just reaching editors for most agencies and startups is a valuable thing. I do think that's something that we can play with especially with our launch as a potential offer for people to be able to use it or find some utility to Gritcoin. And then just backing into events, they're a really important part of our fabric. I mean, we lean a lot more heavily, especially in the in-person events where all that matters. And again, that's a market for attention, but then also for access. And as for our events, even the ones coming up, we do run out of tickets. And even with tickets, certainly it doesn't guarantee entry to some particular activation, especially as it relates to our dinners, which are often 40 or 50 people. So not just at South by, but we have a whole schedule of that coming up. We will be at Paris Blockchain Week mid-April. Right before that, though, even we'll be at BTC Miami, Miami's main Bitcoin conference. On the 7th, we have a dinner that coincides with that. I mentioned Paris earlier. On the 13th, we have a dinner there. I'll be speaking at Brown University on broadly fintech and cryptocurrency topics, I believe the 16th of April. And then we have a whole raft of events from Global Investor Conference in May, World Economic Forum. June takes us to NFT NYC, where I'll be speaker, and also to Collision in Toronto. So that's just the first half of this year. There's a lot that we can do access-wise for Gritcoin holders there, and we'll bake all that into the marketing material around it to make it as clear as possible, so we can share that roadmap and share what people can effectively buy access into, especially some of the higher tiers. I saw you chuckle a bit about Mashable House's activation, Jeff, when you remarked that there's always someone there earlier. Generally there is. I think for us that'll be Gritcoin holders.
I kind of like that, and I appreciate the you and I share a few things in common. I've been hosting conferences and events, live events, for 26 years now, and I really enjoy that the gathering and the community and the connecting and all that. But there's some great knowledge. I just thought of a perk, which just consider it. You don't have to comment on it, but since you're in the business of news gathering, and I'm sure you deal with all sorts of PR firms over the years. You might have a list of the top PR firms that are most effective in getting messages out. So perhaps for a startup that has some extra grit, you might, not that you're going to recommend a particular firm, but you might be able to recommend some things to look for, attributes to look for in a PR firm to represent you. Because for everyone who's out there that has a shingle that says, "Hey, I will represent you," not everyone is as effective as everyone else, and they all may know you, but at the same time, certain techniques or certain things to get your attention work much better. So I think there's like different levels of dimensions where people can come in, and sort for the casual folks, yeah, we have access. I'm going to share with the crowd though a trick that I did. I discovered this about 10 years ago at South by, maybe a little less. I used to host for 5-6 years. I hosted a party. It was on Friday evenings. It was a schmooze fest from like 7 to 9. And it was a place for my friends from the East Coast, West Coast to gather. And the reason it used to be a free event, and then I ended up with 2 ticket prices, $25 and $1.99. Why? Because there were some bots that woke up, and all of a sudden started subscribing for everybody for every event taking place at South by. And I woke up one day and there were 3,500 people signed up for my event, and I didn't think anyone was going to come. So then I changed it to basically the iTunes pricing. I think it was $1.49 or $1.99. And then $25 because I don't like lines. So that was $25 was front of line, and $1.99 to get in. And turns out that based on the economics of what it costs to rent a venue for 3 hours, enough people paid for a front of line that it paid for the venue and covered my minimums, and the $1.99 helped pay for the drinks. And almost like out of every 70 people who paid for the front of line access, only 2 or 3 actually cashed in. It was just in case, and it worked. And I just think there's a pricing model for grit that people want to show some extra grit. They can have front of line access at your events because it's like a nice perk, and others are there. And then of course there's everyone else. But anyway, I wish you much luck. It's it's for me. So you have the existing business, and so as a creator, you already are in the flow of creativity, and you're already in those models of doing stuff, so you could just implement it in the magic you do. And for me, when I launched JeffCoin, I wasn't doing events. I still haven't traveled very much in the past 2 years, and so I've been more virtual and but all about community. I mean, the thing about what I do, and I think what you do, and what Joselin does, we're all about community. Because if it wasn't the people around us connecting with us through us, then there'd be not much for us to hang out and talk about. So yeah, I'm bullish on where this goes, and I'm really excited for your launch, particularly because I've seen you in action in Toronto. I know how desirable your dinners are, and how kind a human being you are, and how nice you are. And so I look forward to seeing how the relationship between having some, if you will, a token, a grit token, how that evolves, and see if whatever your expectations are prior to launch, what happens during the launch and ultimately post launch. And so I would love to continue the conversation over time. And if people have questions about what it's like to be a creator, or yeah, have questions for Jordan, please put in the chat. I'm going to switch over to Joselin, and then we'll come back and all three of us will talk. Thank you for joining us today.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. Now I'm bringing up a friend. There you are, sir, and good afternoon to you. How's Boston doing?
Cold, snowing.
Snowing, really?
Well, it was snowing. There's still snow out there. But yeah, it's funny because I had some friends that are in Mexico, and they were showing me their beautiful beaches, and I'm showing them the backyard full of snow. So yeah, it's a situation. Dichotomy, indeed. But I'm here warm, excited, ready to speak. I see a couple people that I know here, Keith, and who else do I see in the house? I see David Cutler. I see some folks from Boston area. Lauren and Larry, Harry, I mean, everybody's here, so I'm super excited to chat it out.
First of all, I do have to thank you for all the generosity you always show toward the Boston Tweet Ups, and every time we did something in Boston. Thank you again for your hospitality. It is great. I'm grateful to know you. And you know, one of the things, I think it was the last show I did, we were talking about Discord, and we were one of my friends, or maybe it was 2 shows ago, I forget already, and I was looking at you know, in the creator economy, people seem forced to use all these different tools. And, you know, Discord was not necessarily invented for the creator economy. Discord was used by gamers. And a little Boston backdrop. Years ago, I started a company that moved to Framingham called Vivox. And Vivox is in the business of adding voice to massive multiplayer universes like games. Ultimately, they became the voice engine for, started with Second Life, made it all the way over to Fortnite and many things in between. And you know, community is where it's at. So you know, not necessarily is it cool to say that we take Discord and reappropriate for the NFT world, and we start using it for anyone who's doing projects. But that's what's happened. And you know, and I'm not making any political statements whatsoever on the show, and I try to be apolitical. Just that's what I do. But let's just say that I'm not a big fan of Facebook these days. I just am not for different reasons. And so, you know, from my perspective, I've been looking for platforms to communicate with communities outside in a post Facebook world. And I had a friend drop by, and he shared a sort of a quick, right before shoulder surgery, Alec came here and he kind of gave us an overview of Discord and kind of showed how to do NFT gating using Collabland and this and that. And it's a little complicated, particularly for people trying to figure this magic out and what's going on with Discord. But my point about NFTs in general is that know your audience. So I'm the proud lead designer for Pulveria, which Pulveria.xyz is my site. And I've been creating art and publishing it for a few months. And the art that I publish has certain perks associated with it. Most of it really that you're supporting the work I do. I'm supporting the work that we do at Jeff Pulver Entertainment and Pulver Studios. But you know, when I started thinking about putting people on Discord, and then I also had a conference recently, I had the Von 3 Summit, and again, know your audience. And so by and large, the people who've been buying my NFTs and coming to my conferences are baby boomers and Gen Xers. While I really like to have people younger than 46 come to my shows, it doesn't usually happen. And when it does, it's a particular speaker and not necessarily the entire audience. And so rather than frustrate my friends with no disrespect to Discord, I've been searching for alternatives, and this is where how we the conversation continues. So I found, for example, that alternative, alternatives to Facebook. There's Discord. There's is it Mighty Networks or just Mighty Networks, and then there's Circle, and so I'm just so I'm enamored by all these alternatives. And for those of you who don't know what these things are, imagine Facebook groups, but without Facebook. Imagine a place, a destination for you to bring your community where you are sort of control of what it looks like and the user experience. And so, Joselin, what's your take on this? Sort of like Facebook without Facebook. Where do you look? What do you do? And where have you ended up?
Yeah, great questions. Interestingly enough, it stems from what Jordan was talking about, what you were talking about with events, and that's the essence of community. Of like, we want to have a connection with others, and the pandemic and all these things that we're going through in the last couple of years has really illustrated the fact that we still need to connect with others. And there's a lot of technological components that have arisen, features like social audio that's dealt with Zoom fatigue and things of that nature. So we already know that people want to connect. And I put a link into the chat for those people that are interested to talk about Circle. And I used to use Mighty Networks. Using Circle was refreshing, but let me give like a big picture because this becomes very important. If you don't mind, can I just share a couple things in the screen? Is that okay?
Sure, by all means.
Cool.
Yeah,
I have the sharing capabilities. So what I wanted to do is let's talk about what this all means. So when we talk about a general audience, we generally look at it like this, where you're the central cog and everybody communicates with you. With the community, you create an infrastructure that allows your members to communicate with each other. That's the fundamental difference. The other thing that we've been taught in regards to just communicating our message out is we're taught this whole marketing funnel of sending out a message to hundreds of thousands of people on every social media platform, including Facebook, and a sheer minuscule percentage get to see it. And then an even smaller percentage gets to actually engage with it. That is the marketing funnel that we've become accustomed to. But with communities, and this is just general communities, we focus on our high supporters, our, 1,000 true fans, if you will. Those people then recruit others just because they know that the community is going to be valuable for them, and they're going to only recruit other people that are going to be just as excited to be a part of the community. So it's a self-regulating system. So then that community continues to grow. So whether you're a creator that's just starting out or a creator with already an existing fan base, community becomes the central unifier, because it allows you to grow proportionally, so that when you do select a tool like a Circle, you're able to, generate more revenue with less effort because the system takes care of everything for you. So the last thing, go ahead.
But you're talking about revenue. So when I think of Facebook, I think of revenue for their advertisers. I don't think of revenue for me. Why is this different?
It's different because let me just show you that when you do this, I'm going to just show you. I'll start here.
What is this right now?
So this is Circle, the interface. As you see, it's a clean interface, very similar to Facebook or a lot of the social media platforms, where you have the main feed here, and you have some settings here, which you could customize completely, and then here's some other components. Now, when you talk about advertising, you see no advertising here. I own this property. This is essentially my website. So I get to control the content that's being distributed to my members. And when I go live, because there's a live feature here, everyone in the community gets the notification that you've gone live, versus having to go through some sort of weird algorithm, because we don't control Facebook and what they do. And if you want to get your content shared to your audience, you end up having to pay for the same audience that you've struggled to build over the many years.
Pretty crazy, right? But that's true. That's so true.
So in this particular case, Circle I like better than Mighty Networks, because I've used Mighty Networks. It's pretty much, you're comparing features, but I just like the community that Circle has put together, similar to how Buffer and Hootsuite are comparable, but there's two different audiences, right? So compare this more to Buffer, where they're always like innovating and making changes primarily for the community. So again, if you have a small community of just like 10 people, you could go here and it's an asynchronous with live capabilities. Asynchronous means that people can engage with others at their own pace, at their own time. And this is a great supplement for Jordan and anyone else that has, for example, a coin, because now you could have an event, people get connected there. As an added benefit to a coin holder, you could come into this community and get more value. For example, that's just like some, kind of something to think about when you're developing any NFT project or any crypto project, that you could add value or utility by creating a community. Now, what's making this different than, for example, a Discord? Well, Discord, in my opinion, is Slack for geeks. So if you're not comfortable with Slack and its architecture, then Discord is going to be a little bit more problematic because there's no storage containers.
You're being so kind. I mean, you're being so kind. But continue. I think Discord is totally unusable for most people of a certain age. But it's not that it's not like it's buggy. It's just that the UI for me, it's like, I lived on IRC until IRC for many, many years. And I'm someone who actually used Pine and Telnet to do email. So I get the character-based user interfaces quite well. But for me, it's like, people of a certain age, they can relate to, screens that you can read.
Right. And then, for example, for events, I could store all my events, just like you just have this creator economy, they could all be stored here. And then if you want to have more discussions on it, I'll give you an example of what you could do. So this is an example of, if you have a set post, you could have the video there, and then you could have discussions and you could have useful notes, because who's going to sit there listening to a 2-hour discussion? You could get the highlights here. You could do otter.ai or whatever type of transcription you want. Then you could have further discussion on that piece of content that you could individually sell, or you could add it as a benefit to being part of the community. So you have two revenue streams that you could control, and you get to, designate for your particular community. And then you could have a video library of all the content that you have, just like I've illustrated here. You could have customized courses. Like in my community, I'm going to have challenges. So if you go scroll here, I have challenges. So $0 to $500 challenge. And I could sell that individually, or that could be a benefit to the community. I could also have places where the networking community gets together. Like here's a particular course, and here's, ask questions, share wins, contribute. So it's all in one place that I control and manage. And then when I send out a message, everybody gets to get notified, and they get to set their own parameters in regards to how they want to get notified. But for example, here's a membership directory where you can just look for people who select to be available for connections, and you can look for people from a variety of different components, online, offline. I've set up some badges and tags, so you could have badges and tags for people that go to specific events. So then those people could get together. But again, going back to what I was talking about before, and I'll finish with this, is what we're creating. The essence of it is a community that allows the members to engage with each other, and you're the facilitator versus being the bottleneck that prevents the connections from happening because you can't get to your email fast enough, or you're not checking all the weird DMs that you get on Discord, because that's a nightmare to manage. So now in here, the community mentality is to help facilitate the conversation amongst your members. And that is a game changer, because we're no longer have to succumb to the barriers of algorithms that are put together by these behemoth applications like Facebook and Instagram and so on and so forth. So I'll finish it with that. There's a lot more to say. This is just like a taste. But if you're a creator and you have a following, community is phenomenal for that. But if you're also getting started, this is a great opportunity to monetize from the very beginning with 5 to 10 community members that would help you grow from there. So hopefully that gives you like a big picture, some tactical, and a whole mix in between.
You just generated more questions than I have time in this show to ask you, but let me just be brief. So it looks like if I'm a content creator and I want to have a community, this is a nice way to potentially monetize it. And I also saw that you have the videos there. So I guess if I'm teaching, this is a nice place to either teach through, or people who took my classes, I want to give them a chance to communicate and talk to each other, sort of like the NFT classes that I give. I see that too. And
And
yeah,
just to answer Dave's question, yes, if you have a Circle community and you get invite to my Circle community, they could use the same login credentials to go into my community. So that streamlines the process. It's almost like having a Facebook login or a Twitter login. You have like a Circle login. You could use your same credentials. So it makes engaging. Or which let me highlight this a little bit further. I went over this quickly, but you might have missed it. And I need to kind of go in and let's see here. Boom, boom, boom. So when you're here, if you notice, these are other communities. So I have the Pulver community here, and I got some other ones here. So if you had one, I could just add it here, and it'll be fantastic for them to connect. So hopefully that answers the question in a little bit more detail, David. Thank you for asking.
all right. So this opens up lots of questions. The one thing I have, which I'm currently looking into, is gated access. So for content creators, it's nice to to charge access. I guess with a paywall. I'm of course the one thing I do like about Discord is the fact that it did have the integration with NFTs, so that I could take my NFTs on OpenSea, and if I take the right contracts and the right identifiers, I can actually gate myself to what the different levels, different user status or different rankings inside of Discord. I did do a little investigation on both Mighty Networks and on Circle, and from what I could tell, the tools are there for a developer with the right background to do the integration, but I haven't found anyone that's done the integration just yet. Just curious, are you aware of any active integrations that are happening on these platforms to support the use of NFTs for access to content?
I've asked this in the community, and that's a great point. Wanted to highlight is that the community is active. So if there isn't something that is currently available, the team is readily looking for it. They just need some use cases. NFTs is still like 10 years ahead of people's kind of mindset in community building. So you're pushing the envelope there. So as long as the API, and I sent you the API integration,
API does support it. I saw that. I saw it.
It's now a matter of how you want to integrate it into your system so that it becomes as seamless as possible. A lot of it also has to do with, I've explained all these types of things, but one of the things that I always recommend when setting up any community is do a video explaining the community, saying, hey, in this area, we're going to talk about this. In this area, this is where the activity is, so on and so forth. Just give people an overview, because onboarding is something that we missed on every social media platform. When you joined Facebook, there wasn't an onboarding format. When you join Twitter, there's no onboarding. Instagram, no onboarding. You learn from your friends, some wild blog, some videos on YouTube. But now you get to cultivate a community based off of you creating the sentiment or the way people are going to get engaged by creating a video introduction of stuff like that. So we're working together to make sure that your integration works as flawlessly as possible, given your criteria. And it'll probably, be one of those things with any integration. We got to test out a lot of things in order for it to work as you desire it. But I know that the Circle community is extremely committed to ensuring that they have case studies like this that they could demonstrate. There's already 4,000 people on, not even people, 4,000 communities on Circle. There's one community that has 300,000 members. So they could deal with the scale, and it's global. They even have a showcase of all these communities so you can learn from as well.
Well, I'll do this. There's a lot I can do here. I want to bring back Jordan, and I'll just say that from my perspective, we're living in times where, in fact, it's a fact that the social networks I grew up on, well, not really, but it's because Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, when they used AI to decide what was important to me, that's when I got disenfranchised. There was a time, naivety perhaps, but I literally could be walking around outdoors and tweeting about sunrise or sunset and find other people experiencing, if I'm doing sunrise, someone else is doing sunset, and we were in real time, we're in the flow. I'm a very big believer in the state of now and being in the flow and being in the moment. And what I really loved about Instagram was the same thing, is that I could start seeing in real time what's happening. And then when that was taken away, I got dislocated, if you will, from the now. And I'm at the point right now where if I'm not on Facebook for a day, I see posts from friends 6 days ago, and it's taken away whatever utility I had. And being a community person that I want to be, and breaking new ground and doing conferences of looking at the state of Web3 and doing shows like this, I truly like to have a place where in between the shows, people who meet here have a place to talk and build and discover. And so that's why I'm looking at these platforms, and I'm grateful to know that these things exist. So Jordan, what do you think? What's your take on the post Facebook community platforms? Not that Facebook has gone away, but I might argue that Facebook died and its half-life is so damn long that we'll never notice. What's your take on this?
Yeah, it's another opportunity to overestimate the short run and then underestimate the long run. I do think Facebook and Meta, as it's called now, will probably last a lot longer than we think. We'll probably see a lot more failure to launch, so to speak. And we've seen a lot of that more recently, the last 5 or 6 years, especially with Libra, and then obviously the more recent sort of metaverse expenditures that have not panned out exactly as Meta has anticipated. That doesn't mean, though, that Meta dies overnight. It's a hell of a business, some serious revenue backing it, and a lot of opportunities to fail. Inevitably, though, just like in Web 2.0, we saw the rise of TikTok and Snapchat and Instagram, which of course they bought. Even LinkedIn, you could throw that hat into the ring, Twitter, and so on. Generally, we'll see that next crop of Web3 properties, come to the forefront that are not Meta. We already have a pretty decent idea of who at least some of those will be. It's a wide open field. Where that era is ushering in today. It's more likely than not, though, that Meta does take a back seat as sort of one of the central players, and at least in the long run, just based off of category design, and how typically competition plays out. What I don't know is what that'll look like and who the winners will be at this juncture, Jeff.
Well, I think ultimately, if the end user consumers are not winners, then nobody wins. Because the shareholders talk about shareholder value, we talk about someplace else. But for me, it's about community first, and it's about us, the people, because we're the people who actually brought everything to life. Because without us being there, the early adopters playing and trying and doing and living on these platforms, they're the ones who benefit from us by a wide margin. And it's not like we've ever been offered to be repatriated with all the value that we helped generate. The $1 trillion that the social networks got from users, how much of that money comes back to us? Nothing, right? So if you, I have this whole theory for Web3 that we the people could create a DAO where we basically represent, we get to disintermediate the top 5 companies and have the advertisers come directly to us based on our DNA. If we create a DAO where each of us opt in certain characteristics about our preferences without giving it to anyone, and an advertiser comes who's looking for a certain target market, they get redirected to the people, we get a share of that money, and we collectively earn money, and we disintermediate those platforms. I've actually done a much deeper dive on this, and I think that can happen. It's a risk. May not happen, but it could happen. And I also think advertising is not necessarily the end all be all too, because again, it's about user experience, and it's about being emotional, right? Why do we go back to Facebook? For me, Facebook is birthday book, right? It's a place. It is in Web3 parlance. It's an oracle of birthdays. It lets me know about relationships and birthdays, anniversaries, and unfortunately deaths. It lets me know about life, and gives me a chance to catch up with people who I perhaps haven't been caught up with in a long time. That's the value I have from Facebook. It's, as much as I've spent so much time on it, it has a connection, and based on certain ages, it's going to be that I have certain friends I'm sure are going to be on that platform because It's how they communicate with their grandkids. It's how they communicate with their families, and that's wonderful. As a photographer, I like I liked Instagram from the very beginning, but really as a place to share photos. And there's many studies that have been published of recent times about how culture pressures of Instagram has led people living an Instagram life, which that puts them at odds with their real life and all sorts of challenges like that. So, look, I don't think we have all the answers, but I do think that there's an evolution happening. And what is particularly funny, though, is more and more of my friends who repatriate videos, they'll take short reels from TikTok, and they used to put it on Facebook. Now they're getting banned by Facebook when Facebook realizes that the video first appeared on TikTok. So there's a little jealousy happening. And so why not drive this traffic to your own personal social network, your own community, right? Why? And so I don't have an answer not to. It's where the people are. You want to go where the people are, where you have a stage and you have an audience. So if I were to make a prediction, it's not that Facebook dies or did die, right? But its relevance in my life may decline. And that's probably where I'm going at it. I mean, and for whatever it's worth, I think Twitter's has a renaissance. And it's not because Twitter added Twitter Spaces. It's just something about Twitter in our daily life seems to matter again, where maybe it's because we all play the same word puzzle sometimes. But there's something about that life that in real time we can experience life again. I kind of like that. So I don't know. Thank you. I don't know, you guys. I had no idea this is where my conversation was going to go today. It's like wow. So Jordan, any questions for Joselin, or any feedback, or for what we're talking about here?
Yeah, I think it's really cool what Joselin's up to. It's great to get initiated on Circle and some of his initiatives. More broadly, I think it goes back to where your soliloquy there began, which we appreciate you sharing, and my commentary on your question ended in. That's what does take its place, if anything, right? Certainly the time that you spend on Facebook. And perhaps a good question to ask you is, to what degree has Rally and its community and the economics and that institution crept up in how you've allocated your time, Jeff?
I mean, for Rally?
Yep.
Rally actually has had this very inadvertent blessing in my life. My Rally story started in my mom passed away February of last year, and it was right around the time of her passing that I first got approached by Rally to join their community, which I basically told them in no official terms, no. It was a hard pass. Because I was grieving my mom's passing, I couldn't really focus on anything. And then in April last year, I started dusting off all the emails that I said no to, and I checked out what was happening. And I have a little bit of experience and knowledge about certain types of securities. And I was first a little suspicious, and then I said, oh my God, wow, this could be cool. And so I went through the process of launching. And I have to say that experience of connecting on Rally and launching the Jeff coin and launching what became the Jeff social experimenter, it reinvigorated me. I launched a music show that I do on Thursdays, and our artists always were not complaining about not getting tips, but I know that every time people got tips, they were paying fees to PayPal. And so I had a solution for that. And then I started thinking about, but it was because of Rally that I started thinking about NFTs. And I actually repurposed some of my time and my creativity. And my sister, Michelle, who's a great artist, she's a commercial illustrator for most of her life. I decided, you know what, I'm going to start playing. So I just started playing with NFTs first on Rally. And I actually launched some music NFTs to correspond with the music show. That went really well. And I have to say, it's because of Rally that I ended up relaunching the Vaughn conferences. I did events years ago that helped launch the voice over IP industry. And to some extent, Vaughn was both voice on the net and video on the net. And I realized that we were at another junction point of the future, that we're living at a moment in time where the future of the internet's once again going to take a turn. And I'm not saying that, and so I decided to do a conference that looked at the intersection of where communications could go and where the internet's going. And that's what Vaughn's about now. And so it's if anything, the Vaughn Summit for me was a chance to puncture the air out of the bubbles and to really look at it from a very well-grounded perspective, not to put hype in, but really understanding where things were at and to really try to provide a grounding sense of reality. And what it did, so ultimately it brought life. It brought life. It brought me to a place in time where I now feel I get it, and I'm living it. And in fact, for everyone who's into DeFi, I'm now into a new form of communication, which I'm calling programmable communications. I have a solution in theory for all the spam we get, both robocalling and text spams. And I think that there's a solution as the internet evolves to get around that. I also think that there's, if you ask me what an NFT is in a non-technical sense, it's tech tofu, because an NFT could take on the characteristics of whatever it's nearby. And there's, we're living in a time, once again, that the future is unbounded. And for anyone who has that feeling of missing out from, they were not around during the dot-com boom, let me tell you, the opportunities around Web3 and the future of the internet, from a dollars and cents perspective, is logarithmically bigger. This is I don't know if it's the 2020s or the 2030s, but we're within 20 years of someone being the world's first trillionaire. Somebody will wake up and discover they're a trillionaire. Throughout our own history and time, we went from non-millionaires to millionaires to billionaires. What's a billionaire? But you'll have that soon, and it's because of the innovation that's in front of us. And so, it was actually me becoming a creator on Rally that opened up every door possible. They have no idea how impactful it's been on me from many different levels. And I launched this show in May of last year directly as a result of it to start those conversations, but those conversations continue every day in my head. And I'm really grateful for that. So I wish you similar blessings, that being a creator on Rally and having and launching the Gritcoin may also have a positive effect on how you see the future unfold, because it's been tremendously impactful for me. Even if it's not monetarily impactful to me, it's been a game changer for how I think and how I do things. How's that? Wow. So thanks for that question. I did not see that coming. Wow, I'm sorry. I apologize. I don't really do so much talking on my show. Usually let everyone else talk. I apologize.
Joselin and I must be good at asking questions. One of the questions that we did get from the audience was, when will Grit be on Rally? Carla, the answer is March 10th at 8:30 a.m. Pacific time. I actually, during this recorded episode, just got the email from Rally giving it the green light. You can imagine.
Congratulations.
Yes. Wow. So there's, the so-called digital paperwork. That's done, Carla, and that'll be ready and launch on the 10th of March, 8:30 a.m. Pacific time. You can also look forward to some coverage, of course, at Grit Daily, and then our sister outlet, which you didn't hear about earlier, but Block Telegraph, we own. Polygon financially supported that to get that off the ground.
Wow. Congratulations on that. Wow.
Appreciate that. And you see some coverage in there on this. And, I see it as a malleable instrument. Jeff, you called it, a game. In a lot of ways, it's, life feels like a game, but it's our tech tofu that we can mold and shape as we will, as a gating tool and for giveaways and generosity, I find is the only limitation. So be as generous as possible with things like this. It's really an enabler, and hopefully for good things that resonates well with Joselin.
Wow. That sounds great. Joselin, any questions for us, and any observations you'd like to share?
Just it's all community, digital, NFT, physical, with the events. Really excited to learn more about what you're doing, Jordan. Your event schedule sounds very similar to my schedule in Boston here when I was running Boston Tweet Up. I don't know if you know this, Jordan. I used to go to 2 to 3 events a day for about 10 years, so about 5,000 events. So I really appreciate your event schedule and hustle, because most people, if you don't do, that many events, don't really appreciate the energy it takes to have conversations with people with the same energy and then travel and then keep going, so on and so forth. But I'm super excited to know more about Grit Daily. I love the initiatives about being able to highlight and support the disenfranchised women and minorities and things like that. So I'll be curious to find out more information about that. Where's the best place to get information about what you have going on? Could you provide like a link to, your best resource for information in the chat if you can?
Yeah, naturally, I'll deposit in here. So for those who are not as initiated on Grit Daily, it's the URL is just gritdaily.com. We do syndicate to the big three, which probably might change one day, but one of those is Facebook Instant Articles, but also Apple News and Google News. So that's in the URL. And then also sister publication is Block Telegraph at IO. That's also a Google News partner. For those of you who are headed to Austin for South by Southwest, or you already are in Austin, you can check out our events calendar. Easiest way, just go right to being able to get a ticket for something, and that is our Eventbrite page that I just deposited as well into the chat. Picking up from where Jeff left off, we have a private chef at Grit Daily House. It's the People's Chef, Adrian Davila. Be grilling out 10 through 15 of March. We'll have to get him some tofu and get some grilled tofu on that grill and skewer it like a little tech tofu meatball. I'll have to think about that one. It's half baked, no pun intended. There's probably some play in the food space. With this tech tofu metaphor.
Well, I've recently changed my eating habits, and I've started my day with a tofu scramble, and so to move that into tech tofu, God, it can go anywhere, right? But it's the idea that we can change some things around us, and as long as we're open to being playful and creative, anything and everything becomes possible. I'm going to wrap up the show. Lauren or Harry, are there any outstanding questions in the chat that you see that we did not address?
And Jordan, can you put the link? For some reason, I don't see the links you shared.
I didn't see the link in the chat either. You went blank, but we didn't see it.
Take a look here. I see there are 3 links. Oh, you know what? I just realized they're direct message.
That's one of the flaws of Zoom, is that if someone sends you a direct message, it automatically goes to them every other post. Okay, so I see Eventbrite post, which is good.
See that now? Yep. So I'm doing them in reverse order. I think, bear with me. And I think Dr. Gerald Feinstein, he's got a duplicate of each of these. Looks like that little trick there happened with going to direct message. But that's to everyone now. To have all 3 of those to work with. Check the coverages at gritdaily.com, blocktelegraph.io, and our Eventbrite page is a great way to follow along. We have an events page on the site, but for those looking for tickets who are already in Austin, go ahead and check that out.
Well, thank you both for being here. I wish you, Jordan, a successful launch, and we'll be keeping tabs on that. Joselin, thank you for being the ambassador to Circle and really to Mighty Networks, and really letting us know that there are alternatives to Discord for those people who are looking to grow a community and not feel so tied to a platform. And it's part of my decision making is know your audience. Like what are the demographics? What are people looking for, and how do you connect with them? And so I'm looking to do something significant over at from the homepage of pulver.com and the place where everything here originates from. So soon we'll be hosting our communities in maybe a slightly different way. We'll see. Anyway, Jordan, I wish you much success on your launch, and congratulations for getting so far. And Joselin, thank you for your time. For those of you joining us today, thank you for joining. Thank you for being part of the live taping. If you're hearing this on our podcast or upon demand, just know that you can catch us live on Tuesdays at 2:00 Eastern, 1900 GMT, usually until the time change. Then it's 2000 GMT. But anyway, I'm sorry, then it's 1800 GMT. But anyway, I don't won't worry about the GMT side. It's 2:00 Eastern. And anyway, Lauren, Harry, thanks for producing. This will be the end of the show for now, and we'll be back next week. Thank you so much.
Recording stopped.
Thank you, guys.